low, sell high, that's my motto. I may just quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time stock market guy. Buy low, sell high, that's my motto. Buy low. Buy low, sell high, that's my motto. I may just quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time stock market guy.
Buy low, sell high. That's my motto. I might just quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time Magic the Gathering guy. I think you should too. If only that were the dream. Good morning and welcome to the stream. Good morning, you folks, fans, the amazing fans of Magic the Gathering who love the game as much as we do. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been a slice. It's been nice, and let's do it again. Because I've been enjoying my time with you folks, my friends of Magic the Gathering, friends of the channel, pushing our way up to that 350 subscribers. I hope you folks had a good afternoon yesterday. We covered some interesting topics yesterday on the show. Hot Dice, sup buddy, recently found you. I'm so glad you recently found you. I recently found the Hot Dice. This show is for you, Mr. Hot Dice. Thank you so much for joining here this Thursday morning, wherever you may be. You can always bring a friend to the channel. You can't bring a friend to Magic, bring a friend to Brody's. And tune in for a little bit of morning Magic the Gathering stocks and a little Magic the Gathering talks. Bring your hot dice to roll some sixes, D6s. Nice to have you here. It's good to have some fresh blood in the conversation. I smell fresh blood in the conversation. It's great to have you here. Super show here today. Yesterday was an interesting show. I enjoyed it because we were so ahead of the curve on everybody else out there doing pre-recorded videos. Love it because I get to get there first. We talked about shipping and the new Secret Lair launch platform that's going to be the standard for Secret Lairs going forward. And rather than the time release formula that Wizards of the Coast has patented so well, they're going with the batch release formula. First to the market, first to sale, first on race day. You got to get your Secret Lair first. Are you buying the Secret Lair or are you staying away from it? Where do polar bears keep their money? In a snowbank. That's right. You want to keep your money safe, you keep it in the snowbank, Mr. Polar Bear. Why do cows wear bells? Simply because their horns don't work. All right. Who else have we got here this morning? We've got Mr. Hot Dice bringing the hotness to the channel here this morning. Thank you very much. We're going to have a little sip of coffee. Let's take a look at a very interesting Magic the Gathering article for you folks today. Over the course of the holiday season, I was taking a look at a card that I saw that was making a little bit of a price increase, and I couldn't imagine why. Then I did a little bit of research, and I found an article that explains it just a little bit. And it's a card that I'm quite fond of. Actually, if you folks know a little bit about Brody, I started playing around just before the release of Mirage Block, right around when Revise was released. I actually got my DCI number from the Mirage pre-release. So this is a Mirage card that I'm going to be talking about today. I found it quite good. I have it in my collection, and I was using it when I started to get into Commander CEDH. A lot of people looked at the card and said, what on earth is this? What are these shenanigans you're playing here, Brody? But now, several years later, and a decade or two over the sunrise, this card is starting to get some attraction. It's seen a reprint, and I can totally imagine why. Let's take a look at this card here over at the stock desk. A card that sees infinite combo. Let's get the cam number. Cam number, spam number 2. I'm here, unable to hear. Got you on over while I processing a batch on the work desk. Nice. Well, I'm glad to have you with Mr. Dual Brain. Let's take a look here. This card here. The card I'm talking about is the Grinning Totem. MTG card that breaks an infinite combo sees a 300% price spike. And that's the grinning one. The Grinning Totem taking a 300% hike in price here. A card I'm really fond of. I play it. It's 2 mana. It's not that expensive. It was originally printed in the Mirage block, and this card is making headlines. I like to see it. Little card from the Mirage block. Okay, so Magic the Gathering card that Cursed Totem spiked in price as it provides an excellent answer to a dominant new deck archetype. Yes, yes. Very good. Nice to see you here this morning, Dual Brain. We got the hot dice in the channel here this morning. So let's take a look at this card. This is an article brought to us by Matt Basil. It was published 2 weeks ago. And if you look at the chart, let's bring up the Cursed Totem, the cursed one. Let's have a look. Because, I do have another amazing article for you folks here today to read, but I'm going to get to that here in a second. Cursed Totem. Here's the Mirage version. All right. This is a card that I was playing when I first got into EDH because I didn't know what people were playing. I was like, what is this? 100 cards? Let's throw some stuff in there and let's make this work. Let's do the best we can. All right. Let's try and stop our opponents. So this card right in around the early 2000s, it's seen a jump up in price all the way to $30, sort of where it is now. And nobody it didn't really catch on. I do still have a couple of copies of it, but it just seems like recently this card has taken another poke up to about the $20 level. And that sort of seems to be right where it's hitting. There is some support at the $20 level. So let's take a look at this amazing article by Matt Basil here today talking about the Cursed Totem. It has seen a reprint. Good morning, Titancha Man. Nice to see you here this morning. The MTG card Cursed Totem is spiking thanks to a shakeup in modern meta that had seen an old combo deck rising to the top. The card's only risen from 50 cents to $2, so it's still cheap, but the foil copies have rocketed sky high. From $5 to $36, an increase of 620%. Woo! I'd like to get a 620% raise if I can make it happen. All right. 620% increase. It's been more desirable because its ability to shut down activated abilities on creatures. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, this is the card that we're discussing here this morning. Do you have a copy? I hope you have a copy. Cursed Totem, 2 mana. It's like the Null Rod for creatures. Yes, it is. It's a hate piece. Some people may say it's a hate piece. You're playing creature hate. Activated abilities of players cannot play activated abilities of creatures. I like the original Mirage art, but this is creeping up in price, especially in the foil version. $16. If you can find it fairly cheap from the vendors, this is a disruption piece that you may want to have in your back pocket in case you need it in a sideboard, especially in a modern deck. So the Null Rod for creatures is up 620%. It's become more desirable because its ability to shut down activated abilities on creatures. To be more specific, the Cursed Totem is being utilized by decks that don't have lots of activated abilities. So myself in Commander, I find the card like Torpor Orb actually extremely powerful. It shuts down cards like Dockside. It also nerfs the Thassa's Oracle in the bud. And if you're looking to shut down activated abilities, especially even mana abilities, this card is going to do it. It's a sideboard tool that combats one specific modern deck, the Yawgmoth combo. Need something to deal with that, right? The Yawgmoth combo deck relies on the infamous Yawgmoth Thran Physician. This creature can sacrifice to put -1/-1 counter on something, and you draw a card. What do you folks think about this card? The Cursed Totem. It's about time it's seen some comeuppance. The Cursed Totem. Brody's going to move slowly to the left here. Come, I love Cursed Totem. I know, right? And I love Cursed Totem, and you can too. Normally, you'd use that counter to kill or weaken something of your opponents, but with this MTG deck that's making headlines, you get to put it on your own critter. You use 2 cheap Undying critters, including the Strangleroot Geist and Young Wolf, and you sacrifice 1 while removing the +1/+1 counter from the other. +1 and -1 counters cancel each other out, and then you can sacrifice the other one and take the 1/1 counter off the first. Who will have a comeback thanks to Undying? So the Strangleroot Geist. Here, this sucker cost you 2 green. It's haste, it's Undying, and this part of the Yawgmoth combo. Gabba Geist. That's right. Benson's here. Yabba Gabba Geist. All right. We got some Geist in the house. And what else? Like, I know the Kitchen Finks was another card that was sort of with the Undying combo, right? I think it was Kitchen Finks and Phyrexian Unlife. You can't put counters on stuff, so then you get the loop, right? All right, with this combo, you can draw a ton of cards. You can pay a mere 1 life for each one of them. You can use something like Sheoldred on top and keep drawing and add infinitum. Add a Blood Artist to drain your opponents to death, and after a powerful card like Fury and Up the Beanstalk got banned, in the recent MTG ban list changes, Yawgmoth has become a top-tier meta deck once more. I picked up copies of Fury, okay? I picked up 1 copy of Fury from my buddy T. Freezy just the other day. He was sitting on some play sets. I made a nice trade with him to get into some Commander stuff. I want to play Fury in the Commander meta because I'm playing Grixis, and it's really hard to deal with things like the Collector. Oof. I love Persist. Benson loves to persist. Persisting and insisting. Don't forget cards with the persist mechanic. Right? Such as Puppeteer Clique. Okay, let's take a look at the Puppeteer Clique. Let's have a look. Benson wants to look at this. Benson's kind of a master of combos here. He's got some serious MTG tech. And if you were here yesterday, you would have heard some great tech from our friend Millmaster. So let's check out the Puppeteer Clique. What's this here? Cliquing from Shadowmoor. Here's another great card. What's this one sitting at? $1.25. The foil is $17. It's actually come down in price a little bit. Let's get the foil chart on top of there, sitting at about 20, just kind of evening out. All right, the Puppeteer Clique. This one's 5 mana, though. It's a 3/2 that says, Flying Puppeteer Clique comes into play, and target creature card in an opponent's graveyard. Oh, when Puppeteer comes into... Wow, this is powerful. Have a sip of coffee. Enjoy this one here. This is a bomb. 5-drop, 3/2, flyer, fairy wizard. When it comes into play, put target creature card in an opponent's graveyard into play under your control. It has haste at the beginning of your turn. Remove it from the game, and then it persists. So you can do it again and again. This reanimates from your opponent's graveyard. I think this is a great card. If you can make this thing Undying and not get counters, and you can do it again and again, I think that's pretty good. When this creature's put into a graveyard can play, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield and put a -1/-1 counter on it. There's some great tech here. And Conjurer's Closet. All right, so it appears that there are some decent options for us in the persist department, I must persist. Let's take a look at the Conjurer's Closet. Let's take this card coming straight out the closet. 5 mana. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature card you control. Then return that card to the battlefield under your control. So you can blink? Hello? At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature card you control, then return it. So this is a straight up flicker card. I like the Displacer Kitten too. That will do that. We can displace with the Kitten. Because whenever this thing comes into play, you get to take stuff. Oh my gosh. Yes. Just sort of nerf everybody's graveyard. Wow. Woodfall Primus works well with that Totem and Yawgmoth combo, right? Yes, you should. All right, let's continue. Excellent suggestions here, folks. As we can go next level. If you're doing Commansees, Reanimatesees, this is definitely some tech for you folks. Love the Nerfling graveyards, right? I do too. It just punishes people for being greedy and putting stuff in their bin, right? Since powerful cards like Fury and Up the Beanstalk got banned recently, Yawgmoth's become a top tier meta deck once more, so people need a way of combating it, and Cursed Totem is the perfect answer. Not only does it stop Yawgmoth's will in his unpleasant tracks, it also handles all the mana dorks hanging about the deck. For more Magic the Gathering stories and prices, check out the list of the most expensive Magic cards and don't miss the price guide. Very interesting. Next thing we see here, best free strategy games in 2023. Strategy games. Not interested. But what I am interested in is talking to you folks a little bit about some Magic cards here this morning. Puppeteer Clique, Persist, few different pieces of tech coming our way from the chat. Thank you so much for getting that on my radar. I like it. I may want to pick up some copies. A very interesting time here in the game of Magic the Gathering. We're seeing a bear market and some changes transpire here coming straight into the new year. The first one is going to be the Secret Lair. I want print runs. We want to know print runs. Yes, we do. Read Woodfall Primus? All right, let's check it out. Definitely. Let's check out Woodfall Primus. Woodfall Primus. Am I spelling it right? Let's check out the Woodfall. Woodfall Primus from Shadowmoor. Here's another interesting card brought to you by Benson. All right, let's check it out. Another Shadow 4 card. I really think the Shadowmoor foils are undervalued. I've said it once and I've said it again. I was shopping down the list of foils on the Shadowmoor block, as well as the Shadowmoor block, as well as the Lorwyn block. And I really find there's some definite value in those two blocks, especially in the foils that haven't been totally picked clean through. When Woodfall Primus enters the battlefield, destroy target non-creature permanent. Not non-creature permanent, so it can hit lands? Ouch! When this creature dies, return to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. That's busted. That's busted. That's definitely going to... I mean, you can hit lands, you can hit just about whatever you want. That seems pretty busted. What do you folks think is the play for 2024? Myself, I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently. I did do one vendor of some cards over the holidays. I did not clean out the vendor box. I feel right now putting cards aside to a vendor box, it's a good idea to put them aside, but I think I'm going to wait on pulling the trigger on vendoring stuff just because the market that we're in, things are so low. the buy lists aren't very great, especially for modern cards. So I'm going to wait on vendoring just about anything. I'm going to try and wait for the first half of the year because I don't think we're going to get full value for trade-ins with the bear market as it is. So I'm thinking maybe wait a little bit and see what happens. I'm going to try and trade with folks just over the counter or within my play group to get cards that I need. That way we can maximize the value in our collection. And I'm going to try and avoid vendoring as much as I can this year. Doesn't mean I'm not going to still put a vendor box together, because if something spikes or takes a retrace, I want to be able to get something. But I'm not going to do any large vendors packages for at least 3 to 6 months this year. I'm going to hold off. I've got an interesting article for you folks here this morning. This one's a good one. It's from one of my favorite writers out there in the Magic the Gathering world. No, not is it Harvey McGinnis? No, it's not Harvey McGinnis. I know Harvey is an excellent writer. He also works for the Commander Heralds. Love the articles by Harvey McGinnis, but this one's coming to us from Matt Brzezinski. That's right, Harvey and Matt are tier 1 and tier 2. Like, they're both tier 1 article writers for Magic the Gathering. I love watching the posts come up on Twitter. I love reading the articles from Matt. So let's take a look at this article labeled Ravnica Remastered. Here we go, by Matt Brzezinski. He's given us Gotta Get Back and be remastered. All right, what do we got here? Ravnica Remastered, marking the third release and revise of iconic planes, following the footsteps of Time Spiral Remastered and Dominaria Remastered. This chapter provides a nostalgic journey through some of the greatest hits encountered on Ravnica and has generated greater interest than the previous two combined. Ravnica Remastered is tailored for play with the draft environment in mind, and a series as a convenient way to obtain retro frame cards, thus enhancing its overall appeal. We see some Blood Crypt. This is a set that I'm actually excited about. I want to see what happens here, because we've got the Blood Crypt, we've got the Shocklands coming at it. Consume Remastered, right? I know. Every time things get pretty easy to buy. Every time things get a little bit down and dismal in the whole market, hey, then all of a sudden it's like we're staggering sets with Shocklands and Fetchlands in there, right? Card that I was going through the collection that I actually need. I think T Freezy's going to hook me up is the Arid Mesa, so that's a Fetchland. And then we're going to get the Enemy Shocks here. Is that right? Or the Allied Shocks? Perhaps. This seems pretty interesting. And what else we got? Maze's End. I think is Maze's End is the one that wins you the game if you have gates. Yes. So we got a return of Maze's End, some interesting Birds of Paradise, and then Blood Crypt showing here. The heightened interest in this product can be attributed to several factors, namely the combination of nostalgia and the higher quality cards featured in the Ravnica sets. This is adding a lure for both players and collectors in the introduction of serialized cards into the remastered series. This is Dominaria Remastered with Shots, right? Morning, Prime 406. How you doing, Dennis? A select offering of 64 serialized retro-framed rares and mythics just found in 1% of boosters will be available. Noteworthy is the strategic inclusion of certain cards within collector boosters to ensure minimal impact on the limited environment, preserving the integrity and draft experience. Examples of this on either side of the power scale are the Thespian Stage making a comeback, a combo piece for the lands deck, and a Supreme Verdict. What's your verdict, folks, on the Ravnica Remastered set? Give me some comments. I'd like to know what you folks say. Still sad, though. 100 serial. This is Dominaria Remastered with Shocks. Overall, the Ravnica Remastered set captivates both players and collectors alike while catering to a wide range of playstyles and preferences. So we got the Retro Shock Take 2. Are we getting these? Yeah, we did go to Ravnica twice already in the last couple of years. You can tell how badly they need the set to sell by how they write the hype articles. How about that? Hyping and piping along here this morning with you folks. Shockland's providing many players with their list for piece of first real estate of power when it came to deck creation or upgrades. Being fetchable, these lands are highly sought after for their versatility, providing 2 colors of mana and often maintaining reasonable prices. They see extensive play in various formats, especially Modern, Pioneer, EDH, and CEDH. I was really excited when the last time we went back to Ravnica, because I was sitting out of Magic the last time Shocklands were printed, so I missed out. And when I got back into Magic from Type 1 and Type 2, I was looking around and people are like, you got to play Modern, Legacy, and I had to relearn all these formats. And then I looked at people's decks and I was playing dual lands, so they're like, well, it's kind of not Legacy, but if you want to play in the tournaments, you got to get into Modern. So then I'm looking at the land base. I'm like, well, these suck because you got to pay 2 life. Why don't you play like the dual lands? They're like, you can't. You got to play the shocks and you got to pay the fetches. The shocks and the fetches. So you got to use the fetches to thin out your deck to make it more competitive, and then the shocks are what fix your mana base. So that's just that's just part of Magic now in the metagame for Modern. But sadly for me, I didn't have any shocks or any fetches, and I'm like, whoa. Okay, what? Then I started doing the math. I'm like, what is this going to cost me? Could you imagine getting into Modern after sitting out of Magic for a number of years, and then you're looking at the mana base, you're going, I need shocks, I need fetches, I need 4 of these, 4 of these. Oh my God. And you're pulling in like, 50, 60, 80 bucks, the polluted deltas and the blue ones from Onslaught block, they're even more expensive. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take the bait. I went hard into like Kaladesh and Standard, actually. Yeah, I bought boxes and I started playing Standard. And I enjoyed that because it was a little cheaper. Standard was cheaper than buying into shocks and fetches. And at that point, I said, well, I'll just wait for a reprint on these shocks and fetches. And then people were like, no, they're not going to reprint them for like 5-10 years. Good luck. And I was like, wow, that's a long ways to wait to get yourself some shocks and fetches. And when the last time we went to Ravnica, I was super excited because I was like, I am going to go hard on opening boxes. I'm just going to open boxes until I get my shocks and fetches. And then we're going to see where we're at. We're going to do draft. We're going to do standard. We're going to do, because I was in standard, right? So we're going to do draft. Going to do, yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to do draft. I'm going to open boxes. And the box price for the first trip Ravnica Allegiance was pretty reasonable. As far as I remember, it was reasonable, wasn't it? So then I opened as much as I possibly can to get play sets, but the box price was reasonable. I remember that. And then I thought, okay, any of my overstock, because then I sort of learned about enemy and allied fetches and enemy and allied shocks. I thought, well, any of the extras that I have more than a play set, I can use those to trade into the missing pieces, the enemy fetches or the allied fetches, or the enemy shocks or the allied shocks, and sort of go from there. So this is kind of nice. Players are gonna want to get in on some of this if you're new players. So that's where I see the allure is. It all depends on what the box price is. I find Ravnica Allegiance was fairly cheap in comparison to what we're seeing now for box prices. But let me know if you think that's if I'm far off base, or what are we going to see for price point here for these ones. Cosmic Siege, you quit Modern because Spirit Guide got banned. I know it was such a good card, and it was the only one that you could use. That's why a lot of people quit Modern at one point. Can't wait for the return of Ravnica remastered. The 4th turn, right? The 4th turning. We are in a 4th turning. Still, though, creatures with Infect won't be officially reprinted in a real foil. Blighted Agent was a list reprint. Pioneer, Modern Horizon. All right, let's take a look. Sometimes it pays to be patient in this game, and that's the point that I'm trying to make to folks, especially tuning in. It's really tough for new players who are coming in and looking and getting stomped out what sucks? Losing at Magic. You know what sucks even more? Being salty and losing at Magic. And then, humility is the key. So when you're losing at Magic, you got to take your lumps. You got to be like, well, I just don't have those cards, right? I know what it feels like. I don't have the shocks. I don't have the fetches. But you got to kind of make a plan and stick to it. You're like, okay, well, if they reprint them, that's when I'm going to open packs and try and get some of them. And then you're kind of, I was rewarded for that when Ravnica Allegiance was released, because then we got the shock land. So if you're new to Magic and you don't have shocks and fetches, you may have to lose a few games, or power down your deck or use different land-based alternatives until you can get them. This is going to help players establish a good mana base, no doubt about it. But key is you got to be patient. So when you're coming into Magic, what they really want you to do is go, I need this, I need this, I need this. And I was just kind of up against the wall against some Commander singles recently over the holidays. It was like, do I buy the Deflecting Swat? Do I buy the Fierce Guardianship? And do I buy the Deadly Rollick? Because they're like $50 singles. I have to have them to be competitive. I don't know if they're going to be reprinted and get to open them. So, all right, they're one-ofs, they're singles. I could probably do that. But play sets of Shocklands, play sets make the wallet go out. Let's read on Matt Grozechnik's article. I did the best with what I had is a big pill to swallow, right? Totally. Hot dice. I like that. I did the best with what I had is a big pill to swallow. It is. You got to do that sometimes. It's like sometimes people are like, why aren't you running shocks and fetches? And I'm just like, I don't have them. And they're like, well, why don't you trade for them, buy for them? And I'm like, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and stay the course. I'm going to try and open them. And then they're like, well, good luck. They only reprint them every 2 years. And I'm like, well, it's fine. That's totally fine. I will wait the 2 years. With the release of Ravnica Remastered, all 10 Shocklands are each receiving 3 new reprints. Interesting. Good morning, Mrs. Alfonso. Yeah, we're not answering the phone today. Don't touch that. Don't touch that dial. We're not answering the phone today. The phone is off. I'm like, you folks, I'm here to do the show, and I'm still not ready to go back to get released back into nature. Let's just say that. I want to do some stock desk talk. I want to do some show with you folks, and I want to meet some new people. I want to jam out with hot dice here on the stream. Richie Duds, Cosmic Seeds, and all you folks here this morning. I want to see what's coming up in Ravnica. I want to make a game plan and a strategy with you folks for the new year. All right, with the release of Ravnica Remastered, all 10 Shocklands are receiving 3 new reprints, focusing on the pricing of the regular art versions rather than the retro frame or the anime borderless variant. It may be a strategic move to pick them up promptly after the set launches, re-examining the graphs from Guilds of Ravnica Allegiance, taking Watery Grave as an example. It had a steady market price of $7 to $8 before climbing back up 2 months before post-release. Meanwhile, Breeding Pool had a sharper price increase from the average of $8 at release to $30 a year and a half later. While color pairings influence demand, the general trend remains consistent. This cycle of lands tends to be the most affordable shortly after release. I agree with that, right? You can go to the showcase. They got lots of shocks in the showcase because they just released it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this time, because right now, I think mass box openings, I think with Ravnica Allegiance, people were still cracking boxes to get singles, because you could actually, do well in the store. You could come ahead. You could, put singles in the showcase, crack boxes, get value, and then you make some money, a couple of bucks. but we'll see what the price point is for the new Ravnica box set. So if this is what's going to happen, if stores if stores can't make a profit on cracking boxes, they're just going to sit on their hands. Cosmic Seeds, I played lots of Magic the Gathering in high school because I didn't have a job, stayed the course, and losing actually helped. Well, at least for me, it showed me how to get around certain cards and combos. Totally, right? I know. And like every time I sit down and play, I try to learn something. Like, I killed a player the other night at a table. Like, like I'm sorry. But last weekend, we sat down to play some Commander, and I played Crystal Shard. Okay, and Chris, do you know what this? Like, I got to just take a little break here, but I played this card. Um, and the funny thing is, I told the opponent I was going to Shard on him before the game started. Yes, I said I think I need to Shard, and he kind of laughed. He was ripping gas at the table. So I said, well, the only thing worse than ripping gas is sharding. So don't be surprised if I shard on you. And then I played this card. This was when my turn 1 play. Crystal Shard. 3 mana, Mirrodin. I got the Foily boy. Pay blue and tap it, or play 3 and tap it. Return target creature to owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So then he went ahead and cast turn 1 Winota off of his Jeweled Lotus in 1 land. And I'm like, no, put that back in your hand. And then it was just like, fine, then I quit. So, killed a player with this card on turn 1 last weekend. And then he just packed up his stuff and left and threw salt in the air. And I was like, wow, okay, well, don't go greedy and turn 1 your commander because people are going to remove it, right? Losing gratefully is an absolute must. Yes, humility is the key to Magic the Gathering. There's a couple of reasons. If you're not humble, the people who are really good at the format or really good with those decks aren't going to teach you anything. They're going to be like that old tradesperson that sits there and lets you struggle trying to cut a piece of wood with a hacksaw, right? They're just going to let you struggle. The other thing is if you can't lose gracefully, how are you going to win gracefully? Nobody likes a salty loser, but nobody really likes a braggedy winner. No, humility is the key. Had to be a Winota player, right? Yeah, turn 1 Winota, Jeweled Lotus, Commander, go. And I'm like, no, let's put that back in your hand. You got to play around the Crystal Shard. Like if you can't make a second land drop and then play your Commander, I think he probably kept a greedy hand. Keep shifting and scarcity. Let's read on. I love the discussion. Thanks, boys. The upshifting of certain cards from rare to mythic in the Ravnica remastered reprints has created a glaring issue, notably exemplified by Cyclonic Rift. This is the upheaval card that just puts everything back in players' hands. The effect of this will see an inflation of price leading to less accessibility for players. Originally printed to return to Ravnica, Cyc Rift recently experienced a price drop from $40 to $30 in Commander Masters reprint in August. The decision to upshift it to Mythic as opposed to remaining at Rare with previous reprints will contribute to a reduced supply of the card given its widespread play in EDH and iconic status. This is considered a chase card in any of its printings. Cyc Rift should not be Mythic. Run Shatter in all red commander decks, guaranteed destroy something. You know what I'm running? I'm not running Shatter, okay? I'll tell you what I'm running. I am running Gorilla Shaman. I'm running this card. Alliance's card. I love this card. It's from Alliance's block. I'm not running Shatter. I'm running Shaman. Why? Because it's a 1 mana 1/1. It just hangs out. It doesn't tap to do anything. And for 1 mana, you can blow up anything that costs 0 in the artifact base. So a Chromox, a Mox Amber, Mana Crypt, any of that, it nukes it for 1. So if you're like, Gorilla Shaman, Manosaurus, boom, 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 this thing's OP. And it's another card when you sit down and you play it, people go, what is this card? Like, what is what is this card? I say it's Ragavan's uncle, right? This is like Ragavan's like older brother, old Ragavan's greasy uncle, right? Gorilla Shaman liquid metal coating, right? But yeah, Shatter's good. Shatter Storm good. I'd like to see it on a body so I can do it a few more times. Like it. All right, let's see. What do we got? Bruvac, the Grand Eloquent. A legendary 1/4. If an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill twice that many instead for mill decks. What about Bruvac. Another noteworthy card case is Bruvac the Grand Eloquent, which is a limited printings in Jumpstart in the list. The Grand Impotent Bruvac has average price of $33. What? Bruvac's $33? Holy moly. Comes from scarcity rather than from sheer power. The niche ability to double milling done. This is a card for Millmaster, right? The niche ability to double milling done to opponents makes this card sought after for specific strategy, making it more of a build around card than a versatile inclusion. While the price should decrease over time as more copies circulate the market, those who didn't obtain it and don't require it for their decks might consider selling it promptly to avoid potential depreciation. All right. All right. Definitely greasy. Also, the artifact from Weatherlight. Some greasy combo shaman liquid metal killing, dark confident, probably going to tank. Need to talk about Bob's price demise. Let's do it. Hubris. Let's talk about Bob and Dark Confident. Whoa, look at this chart. Oh, he was so expensive. You know, it's funny. I've got this is why you don't like, okay, let me tell you this. I was getting into modern, and there was people playing The Rock, right? The Rock and Jund. And like I was sitting across the table probably playing, turns or another deck. I can't remember exactly what deck I was on at the time. Probably some variation of the turns deck. And I would sit across the table from people playing the Rock, which is red, which is green, Golgari, basically, or Jund. And they would be playing this Dark Confident. They'd be playing Tarmogoyf. They'd be playing Liliana the Veil. And they'd be playing Abrupt Decay. And I'm like, man, that deck looks awesome. It wins games and it seems fun. And I'm looking at the price of Bob, and then you got the overgrown tombs, you got the shocklands, the fetch lands that go with it. I mean, the Rock deck was coming in at like for the whole deck to play the Rock. Depending what version you want. You want some foils in there. $1,000 to $2,000 to build out that deck, right? And then you look at a card like this, the Dark Confident. Excellent card. You see your opponent stuffing cards into their hand like nobody's business, getting 0 drops for nothing. And you see how good this card is, and you lose to it a whole bunch, right? And you go, oh God, that Bob, I gotta do something to get around it. So then you do like Cosmic Seeds was saying, you start finding other alternatives to deal with cards like this card. Because I don't want to go and spend the $75 or $100 for Dark Confident. Like, look at this card. Like, it's peaking out at $75 one time, or over 100 US. So we're up here in Canada. That's like $130 for a Bob. So this thing is like it's wild to sit across the table and play and be like, I wish and they're like, well, we got the play sets in the showcase. You can buy Bob too, buy a play set. It's gonna cost you $400. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm not going to do that. I know what this is trying to do. So like it takes a while to get the cards, right? So now I did a box break over at Twiddler's Place. Yes, I did. Mr. Twiddler. Plug. It's time to plug Twiddler's Place. Twiddler's Place, they got games on Thursday. I would check it out if Tuesdays and Thursdays, Twiddler's Place. So I did a box break over at Twiddler's Place. I cracked myself a Bob, and I was super happy because it was the first one I've ever had. Now, at that point, I was pretty stoked that I didn't pay the $200 or $400 for it, because if you're patient, eventually something's going to be reprinted. tides will turn your way, and you may be able to get yourself a copy without spending the $200. So I was able to do a box break, open like a whole box for $200 or 200 and something bucks. And then like one of the cards in there was Bob. Now, granted, it's come down in price. So does that mean I'm going to just like sell out a Bob? No, but I have one. It's nice to wait until it becomes available in a set and open it. And then that feels good. Like Ragavan. I finally did a trade with T Freezy to get my first Ragavan. My first Ragavan. I still haven't got it yet. It's coming on the weekend, but that's how long Brody's willing to wait out some of these cards. Like I'm telling you right now, I never bought a single Ragavan. I've never had a single Ragavan. I still don't have a Ragavan, but it's softened down in price, and I've picked the cheapest one. And I made a trade with a buddy to try and get one. He's like, he wanted a couple cards. He wanted some staples for Commander. I'm like, yeah, I got this, I got that. What do you got? He's like, well, I was like, well, I hate to ask, but like I'm looking for a dockside extortionist and a Ragavan because I've never owned one. I've never bought a dockside. I've never bought a Ragavan. I've never opened one. I never bought a single Tarmogoyf. I opened my first Tarmogoyf 2 years ago. So I'm like more apt to just wait and try and open the cards and find them because like the joy of getting your first Tarmogoyf in a pack is great. But when the hotness comes out, I mean, Ragavan's been out for a couple of years. He's been reprinted a couple of times. He was sky high. You can still find him in like versions that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But now I can kind of cherry pick and be like, okay, I'm going to buy, give me the $60 Ragavan, like the cheapest one. I'm getting into my very first Ragavan. And some people may say, Brody, you're old and lazy and you're late to the party. People have been playing Ragavan for days. But I actually traded into it, so it cost me zero money to get my first Ragavan, and I'm willing to be patient to do it. The same thing with Bob, the same thing with Tarmogoyf. Those are all cards I've never bought. I've actually finally got a Tarmogoyf that I opened. I've got a Bob that I opened, and I've traded for a Ragavan, just like the Shocks and the Fetches. I'm not willing to FOMO into the showcase just to get the latest modern cards or the latest hotness to build a deck that's more competitive. You give it a cycle. Give it a cycle. And then soon enough you'll be finding yourself sitting on a bunch of cards that, people are going to want. That's when you go back and you get them. Dark Confidant remaining one of the more financially appealing mythics to open. Seems to be no bright future ahead for its value though. Even with retro frame variants, the typical trend suggests a post-release nosedive in price, either matching the normal version or in many cases being marginally cheaper. Similar to Bruvac, the prudent approach might be to sell it as soon as possible, considering the diminishing potential in the future price. Hot dice. Bought me a few docksides at $50. Easy money. Nice. Nice. I want to see if Goyf hits $5 to $10, then laugh, right? Or if it gets so low that, like, how do you catch a falling knife, right? You don't like try and like catch it in midair. You like let it hit the ground, let it clang around, bang around, and then you just go over and pick it up, right? Like this Bob. If you want to buy Bobs, maybe now's the time to get them. You can get them for fairly cheap. If you always wanted to, like this will definitely substantiate how much you wanted to play that deck. If you really wanted to play the Rock and you really wanted to play Jund, then now's the time to pick up Bob because he's 10 or $15. MTG, speaking of Bob, did I just see Gaming Bob in the channel? Did I see him? Where's MTG Gaming Bob? Speaking of Bob, his ears must be burning. Let's keep rolling here. Remastered and restructured, continuing the remastered set cycle and potentially paving the way for serialized cards and Innistrad Remastered. The latest journey to Ravnica has garnered mostly positive feedback. The set offers an enforced limited environment. So positive feedback. For me, the jury is still out on this one. It's all going to depend on what the price per box is. And that's going to really, really depend. That's going to really decide whether or not stores are going to open them. We haven't seen mass box openings for a long time. So we'll see what the price point of the box is. If it's too expensive and stores just sit on it and don't crack boxes, then it's going to be a tough sell for me to say that positive feedback is the consensus and the attitude behind this set, but we'll see. The jury's still out. Let's see what happens. Bought me a few dog size at 50. The Bob was mentioned, but not yet summoned. Gahaha. The set offers an enforced limited environment, various style options, and significant reprints that might impact prices across multiple formats. As long as there is an ample availability of the pricing and the pricing remains reasonable, release will be expected to be well received. With the arrival of the new year, there will be a slew of new products to explore together. The upcoming year promises more experimental sets and additional IPs for the game. For all the excitement and the latest updates, be sure to stay tuned. Matt Grzelcznik giving us bi-weekly updates. One of my favorite writers in the Magic the Gathering space. I love reading Matt's articles because they are well written. He's got a good take on stuff, and I do like a kind of like-mindedness on some stuff. So for me, the jury is out. It's nice to get some capture on the Ravnica remastered. Should we do some shakers? Of course. Now it's time for your movers and your shakers here this morning. What's moving and what's shaking in the world of Magic the Gathering? Let's take a look. At the stock desk here this morning, I'll bring up the list here. What are we going to do? Movers and shakers. Get in your seat, get a cup of coffee, start moving, start shaking. I'm glad. And if you got some, start cooking bacon. What do we got here? Let's see what we can see. Super Fast Tortoise in the house. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. Be awesome and someone shall appear, right? Like it. Wait, Thursday today? Yeah, we are. Super Fast Thursday. Love it. All right, rest in peace, Boiling Water. You will be missed. I ordered a chicken and an egg online. I'll let you know which comes first. But for now, next up here this morning is your movers and your shakers. We're going to do Thursday, which is Legacy, and I'm super stoked to bring you folks the Legacy list here because I love watching the Legacy staples. They're so interesting, simply because they cascade across the Commander format, the competitive Commander format, as well as, just straight up Legacy. So let's get over to the stock desk one more time. Let's take a look here for you folks. We got the movers. Let's move and shake in our seat. Shake and bake. Underground Sea. Oh, baby. Now this card, what are we? Unlimited Underground Sea. $1,747. Yikes. That's a tall pill. That's a big pill to swallow. The dual lands. Yeah. So glad we're back. Yes. All right. The Underground Sea, the dual lands. What can we say about the dual lands? Wish I had more of them, right? There's always the revised copy. The unlimited copy, $1,747. But like I was saying earlier, if you want to get yourself into an Underground Sea, the card you want to buy it used to be Plateau. I'm telling you, if you had taken my advice last year and the year before and bought 4 Plateaus, you'd be doing pretty well right now, or at least 1 Plateau, because Plateau was the cheapest of the dual lands. However, now Plateau is not the cheapest of the dual lands. In order to get the 4-to-1 ratio for the Underground Sea, we're going to be buying Savannah and Scrubland. All right. Those are the cheapest 2 right now. So it's usually been 4-1 for the cheapest dual land to get into the best dual land. The crappiest one for the best one. So you want to get the best one, and you want to inch your way across the sea, one trip at a time. You don't want to just bite the bullet and get the $1,700 underground sea or the $1,000 revised version, $750. What I was saying last year was get the plateau. It's usually 4 plateaus to an underground sea, but then this is how time works in your favor, right? So now plateau is not the worst. It's third off the bottom because of cards like the 4th Aerolingus. That's right, I said it. Lingus. Lingus is a real thing now. The 4th Aerolingus on Magic the Gathering. Now that's taken a bump up in price. So if you had bought the plateau, you would be sitting on, something that's not the worst. And then you can start to now buy into the Savannah or the Scrubland and give it some time and see what happens in the formats. Rising tides move all boats. That's my motto. So the Underground Sea, you can always get yourself a $750 unlimited version, or you can start at the bottom of the revised duels and get the Scrubland or the Savannah. It's not the plateau anymore because that has started moving. Shivan Dragon. Well, there's a little bit of a occult following with this card. It's a bit of a cult classic. This card's a 5/5. It's 6 mana. And I'm saying there are people out there that collect this card, especially in graded condition, just to have it, just to have as many copies as possible. At one time, this was the scariest, biggest, baddest flyer in the game. I still think the art is epic. I don't know how, this cartoony art is my favorite. I love the Phil Folio art. I love the Melissa Benson art. And I don't understand how you make something shine like this on cardboard. Like, she's done such a good job with the coloring and the whites and the yellows and the oranges on this card. I just love it. The veiny wings. This thing is amazing. And I know they've reprinted it several times with several different artworks. This is still my favorite. And simply because there are people who love this card and because it's so iconic, they will collect it. And I happen to know there are people who have thousands of copies of this card in graded condition, 9s and 10s, simply just to have all of them or as many of them as they possibly can. So collectability, not necessarily playability, will drive the price of this card. If you find one in really good condition, don't underestimate how sought after it is just because nobody in your play. This is another thing about Magic. Just because nobody in your play group or nobody at your store is hyped about the Shivan Dragon, they're like, so what? It sucks. It's a 5/5 for 6 mana. It's fire breathing. There's way better cards out there. I can get a 5/5 for 4 mana. Why would I play that? There are some people who just there's a pet card for them. And they see it and they're like, I really want that card. So shop around in different player groups, and if you and try to get the real value for your card. And I don't mean get money for it, but try to if you come across something like this, don't underestimate how valuable it is. Even in revised. And I'm not even kidding. The revised version with the same art, alpha, beta, revised. Look at all the many printings this sucker's had. The revised is $14. But I'll tell you, if you had a graded one of these, you would have no trouble selling it to the right buyer. Simply because reasons. Because it's so iconic and it's collectible. All right, let's take a look here. Savannah. The Unlimited Savannah. The dual land starting to turn an upward trajectory. This is the white-green dual land, Savannah, from the Unlimited set. All right, I think these are now the cheapest. If we go down to the revised copy, revised, Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. Where's the revised copy? Give me some revised. 3rd edition, Savannah. Yes, $309. This is the cheapest of the dual lands now. Savannah and Scrubland. What's the cheapest dual land of any printing? It's this one. It's Savannah or Scrubland. I think they're probably tied up. We can check it. Let's check it. Scrubland. $309 for the Savannah and $320 for the Scrubby. So those two were at parity last week. They were both $313, and now they're about 320. The Plateau used to be the cheapest one, but now Boros getting some support, making it not the cheapest one anymore. So tables turn, but it doesn't mean Scrubland sucks. Savannah sucks. They don't. They're actually really good cards. It's just that there's more support for the Plateau and Boros right now. Boros is a really popular color combination. What are your thoughts on the G conditions or slightly damaged worth the cheese? I play one damaged card, the City of Traders from the couch, because I can't vendor it. Nobody wants it. It's only valuable in a play group. I think it's fine if you're just looking for a playable copy. I personally won't buy, like, I damaged it though. That's the difference. I didn't buy it damaged. I screwed it up myself. It got lost in the couch like for a year, and then I replaced it. And then when I was throwing the couch away, me and Mrs. Alfonso were hauling the couch off the back of the truck, and then I saw a magic card face down on the tailgate. I'm like, I wonder what that is. I flip it over, City of Traders, and it's got a big crease in it. And I'm like, okay, well, I asked if anybody wanted to vendor it, and they're like, no, you got to keep that creased card. I'm like, fine, sleeve playable, double sleeve it, throw it in a sleeve. I'll still play it, and that'll go in my deck. So damage cards, yeah, I was looking at when I was in Phoenix games down in Calgary over the holidays. They had 2 copies of Time Walk in the showcase. One was a damaged copy. I think it was damaged because it was inked. And then they had a HP copy. Really good price on them, actually. When you compare what the market is, it's quite low. But if you want to get into a Time Walk, I mean, that's one way to do it. The only caution I would like myself, I wouldn't buy it simply because it's inked. I wouldn't pay money for it. It's simply because it's inked. That's just my own personal perspective. I would try and get something that doesn't have it. I would wait, but I've really had to have it, I guess. Yeah, I just haven't done it. I haven't bought an ink card knowingly, based on the fact that it's inked. Some people won't care. Some people sleeve playable, no problem. But as a long-term investment, I mean, have never spent money on an inked card. I've kind of waited and tried to get one without ink on it or without damage. Some people will stay away from them. Some people will play them, but I can see it's no big deal. Like if you're gonna play it, no problem. I got some cards that are so beat up and damaged, like Elephant Graveyard. I got a couple of cards that are just look like they've been rubbed on it. It's like rubbed on cement, and they're just so rough. Like they're definitely damaged. And I'm like, I don't care. I need it to play. I just need something that shuffles, right? So for me, like I have a hard time actually, like if I'm gonna trade it to somebody or vendor it, I'll be like, this is damaged, like just so you know, it's in rough shape. The way I see it, they are in a sleeve in a commander deck, so who cares is my thinking. I see it the same way. I'm kind of with you on that one. Here's another card that I think is amazing. All right, I kind of spit the bed on the Bazaar of Baghdad's. You want to hear about a bad beat? I went into the store. This is well, it's got to be going back 10 years now. Perhaps I'll have to look at the paperwork. Went into the store to go buy a Black Lotus, and while I'm sitting in the store, I'm like a one-track mind. I'm like, I'm finally doing it. I'm doing it. Don't let anything else distract. And I get the blinders on, right? I totally get the blinders on. Like, um, a buddy of mine, we went into a store and he's like, "Did you see that card in the showcase?" I was like, "No, I was like too focused on like the one card that I really wanted to get." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I picked up like a pretty good couple of singles there." I'm like, "No, I was so super line focused." So this is another thing. Watch out for the blinders. I've fallen victim to this before. I go in to buy Black Lotus, and as I'm ringing it out at the cash register, the fella who runs the place so I go in and I'm one track mind. I'm just don't worry about it. It's fine. I go in and I go I go in and I'm like one track mind. I'm like, good. I watched it happen. Like I'm like, no, thunk tank. Oh, okay. So I go in, I go to buy Black Lotus, and I'm like one track mind. I'm like, this is what I'm here for. I want the Lotus. And um as I'm ringing it through and I'm like coming down off of this, euphoric dopamine injection that I'm getting from this Black Lotus, I'm like, I'm vibrating, trying to put it into my bag. And like, I just want to get out the door and run down the street, right? I'm like, ah! The guy says to me, he says, he says to me, uh, he says to me, and he points to showcase. He says, "You want a Bazaar of Baghdad's?" Just kind of off the cuff, and like, talking to T Freezy, he's like, you should buy the cards that the vendors tell you to buy. And this is one of the cases where I would have done really well to buy the Bazaar of Baghdad because it was $400. And there was like 40 of them. I think I counted. I was like, I don't want any of your stinky Bazaar of Baghdad's. I am not playing Dredge. And in retrospect, if I had have spent the Lotus money on Bazaars that day, that would have been a game changer. Things would have been like a whole lot different. If I had said, okay, give me 10 Bazaars instead of the Lotus, I would be in way better position today than had I listened to him. So like the blinders on, that's what can happen. You miss a window of opportunity that's sitting right in front of you. So like try and try and calm down when you're finding something that's interesting. So then I what I did is I started looking at other lands on the reserve list, especially in the Arabian Nights block. This is an uncommon, so this almost falls into the same category. And I started looking at Island of Whack Whack, the Island of Wacky Wacky. This card's $279. This is an Arabian Nights rare land. The Bazaar is an Arabian Nights rare land. And then the Elephant Graveyard is an uncommon. So there's a few Arabian Nights lands that compared to the Bazaar are cheap, but they're still probably undervalued. Let's see here. The way I see it, my favorite MTG plane just reminded me I'm still waiting for an eBay customer service. Some nozzle sold me a triple creased fork as LP. Said the damage was in the photo, lit him up with customer service. Nozzle as in nozzle. That is a good one. Told him I'd keep it and sleeve it. Just give me half the money back. Some people, man. Yeah, and that's another thing that I find is like people who aren't card people trying to sell cards, it's really frustrating. Sometimes you just want to walk away and you're just like, okay, but I looked it up and it says this is what it's worth, and you're just like, no. So a card like this, Diamond Valley, I was playing it in the lands deck. People kept Swords to Plowsharesing my Merit Lage token, my 2020. So I was like, well, why not just Diamond Valley it if they try and remove it with Path to Exile or something, and then at least I get 20 life for it. But again, as an investment, this is a reserve list revised. Reserve list dual land from the Arabian Nights blocks. It's uncommon. It's not going to be getting any cheaper since it's from the Arabian Nights. I'm going to source the Plowshare your your Mother of Ruins. You're gonna source to Plowshares my Mother to Ruins? Okay. Diamond Valley, $855. Anybody playing this? Hogak, the Necropolis. Oh man. Come for the magic discussion, stay for the spicy memes and jokes. right? Come for Magic Finance, stay for the memes and spice. Nozzle, that's a good one. I like it. What's next? City of Traders. Oh, let's take a look at this card. Another card that I kind of like. I'll tell you all my bad beats, right? Like this is a card I had the choice between buying this and Ancient Tomb, and guess what Brody did? Brody picked the Ancient Tomb and bought a play set of Ancient Tomb and City of Traders were at parity at one time. And I was like, I think I'll buy the foil Ancient Tombs because I mean the foil cards, I didn't know much about foils and I figured the foil cards would go up. Boy, was that a mistake, right? Then I ended up having to go back later and try and get into the City of Traders when it started getting bought out. I'm going to bring up another card for you folks here because I think it's also, this is from the Exodus block. I think this really worth mentioning. This card from the Weatherlight block. I think this card is underpriced and has been for a long time. Scorched Ruins. As far as lands go and Sol lands, we're talking about lands that make 2 or more mana. This one makes 4. Your mom is a bad land. Everyone's gonna tap it. Okay, I'm done. All right. Well, this card's really good. If Scorched Ruins would enter the battlefield, sacrifice 2 untapped lands instead. If Scorched Ruins would enter the battlefield, sacrifice 2 untapped lands instead. If you do, put Scorched Ruins into the battlefield. If you don't, put it into its owner's graveyard. Has this thing been errated? Because look at the card text on the original card. When Scorched Ruin comes into play, sacrifice 2 untapped lands or bury it. And then the goldfish wording says if it would enter the battlefield, sacrifice 2 tapped lands instead. If you do, put Scorched Ruins onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it in its owner's graveyard. I gotta check the Gatherer on this here. It seems like they reworded that. If Scorched Ruins would enter the battlefield, sacrifice 2 lands instead. All right, let's check the discussion on. No, seriously, what? To make matters worse, artwork is great. I really like this card. Personally, I run X damage. How did I miss this card? Here I thought Cloud Post was ridiculous. I'm going to have to check some rulings on the Scorched Runings because to me, I think I always thought that like the way it's worded on the card, when it comes into play, sack 2 untapped lands or bury it, then you still get a chance to tap it. But with the way that it's errated, you want to see the worst errata ever? Look at Zodiac Dragon. I'm going to do that because the way it was worded on the card is like when it enters, sack 2 untapped lands or bury it. So it's like, okay, it enters. I'm not sacking 2 lands and then I'm going to tap it for 4 and then bury it. But now the way it's worded, it seems to say like if it would enter, like a Mox Diamond, right? When you cast Mox Diamond, you can cast it. If it enters, then you discard a land. You don't discard the land until it enters. Silly New York slang. Zodiac Dragon? Okay, well, the Scorched Ruins makes me think of the City of Traders, and the City of Traders, likewise. This card's been costing over $300 for some time. It's been trending down in price here for a while. Let's put some lines on charts because that's what we're here for. Put some lines on it. What were we at? $100 here, $200 there, then a poke up to 300. Then its last run up was to 5. Now it's kind of trending down in price. Do we see a trend here? I think so. Free to subscribe to my channel for lots of hot nozzle content. Let's check it out. What else we got? City of Traders Moat. Here's a card, an example of buying out cards. This card's $1,000. I think this is the card that sparked the reserve list buyout. Always see this card as a reminder about Nick Berry. I think that's the fella's name. Nick Berry. Let's check this out. Is it? Is it Nick Berry? I think it's Nick Berry. Who's the guy who buys out the moat? Seven years ago. Is it Chuck Berry? Well, the thing about the moat is the guy made a video saying he was going to do it. And then he posted it online, and then basically he went ahead and did it. I'm trying to find the fella's name here because we could watch his video. I think it's called MTG Buying Out Moat. Bunch of other videos come up first. I'm gonna have to do a little search back in the old archives here for a bit and see if I can find the original moat buyout video. I had it saved at one point in time, but yeah, the guy's name is Barry. Oh, here it is. This fella. But that's not the video. Nevertheless, the moat was the card that he speculated on and bought it out. I'll try and find that video for you folks because it would be good conversation. That's still live. Just drop that batch. Can I hear you now? Yeah. What's the name of the guy who bought out Moat? It was Barry something or other. Do you know it? I was trying to find the Moat buyout video where the fella actually goes ahead and describes what he's about to do with the buyouts. I think I think it's Barry something or other. Nick Berry, Chuck Berry, Mike Berry, or Mark Berry, or something Berry. The Moat buyout guy. I wonder if he still has the copies of the Moat. I think he spent $30,000 buying this card out, if my memory seems correctly, and it absolutely sparked the price the price spikes on this card. It's this fella right here. This is the guy. This is the Barry guy. I just don't remember his name. This isn't the video, but there is a fella. This is the same fella who bought out the Moat, the Barry guy. So I was trying to find the Moat buyout video where he's describing like, hey, I'm gonna buy this out, and then his next target was Lion's Eye Diamond, but I don't know exactly what happens. Who's the guy who bought out the Moat? Anybody help me out with? It'd be an interesting video to play up while we have this on the movers and the shakers today. And Gaming Bob's in the house. Good morning. We were talking about you. Your ears must be burning. We were talking about Dark Confidant earlier this morning. So the Moat card, another card that's eluded me. I haven't got myself a copy. It's really hard to find any copies of the Moat. It's been bought out. It's tough. And the ones that are out, Moxman bought the Moat out. No, it's not the Moxman. No. No, is another guy. About 7 or 8 years ago. So that's the latest on the movers and the shaker. After that, Cyclopean Tomb. Here's another card on the reserve list that's very interesting. You put a mire counter on target non-swamp, and that land becomes a swamp as long as it has a mire counter. And I like how they errated it to have a mire counter. Very cool. It's an old buyout. Yes, the Moat buyout, I think it was one of the first public ones that sparked the MTG buyout. So nobody's actually done that. Well, I can't say that nobody's done it, but that was the most infamous one. And then people started buying out the Bazaar of Baghdad. And then a bunch of people copycatted the moat buyout guy publicly. I think people were still buying out cards before, but just not publicly. Old news is new news. But like markets, like here's the thing. Giving way too much credit. This is the thing. Copycats, that's where the whole idea came from, was from this guy, the Barry guy. Because he made it public and he went ahead and made a video about it, saying what he was going to do. He spiked the price of moat. It went up, hundreds of percentage, and that's where the whole idea, the public idea, came from, because people were not exactly in tune to knowing that actually worked. I accidentally bought out Serendib or Freak before the moat buyout. Same results with different intent. Yeah, it can happen. Cyclopean Tomb, this is a card that's interesting because it can turn lands into swamps permanently. When it's put into when the tomb is put into the graveyard at the beginning of each of your upkeeps for the rest of the game, remove all Mire counters from a land that a Mire counter was put on with Cyclopean Tomb, but that Mire counter has not been removed from with Cyclopean Tomb. What a terrible errata. So, baby, I'm muted? Muted. Am I muted? Muted. Muted. I think I'm okay. I think it was you. You're a mute. A mute. Stop it. Bro to the D, what's up, motherfuckers? 4 keeps. Thanks for tuning in. It's great to have a nice push here right at the end of the channel. Hit that like button. Thanks for liking and subscribing. I'm glad you guys are here on this afternoon. Guardian Beast. So Cyclopean Tomb, got it. Moat, don't have it. Need it. I don't know when I'm going to get it. This fuzzy little boy, when Dual Brain picked up a Guardian Beast at the Magic 30, I was super jealous. I was like, I got the fuzzy little 6-arm beast. I want this card so much. The Sub-Zom keeps. Yes, this is a great card. Arabian Nights rare. Also, I think $6.99. This is another card that I've been waiting to try and get my hands on. It was as much as $2,000. This card's been falling, and I think it'd be a great time to get it sometime this year if I could some way, somehow, possibly find a way to get it. The Guardian Beast is really good. It's a 2/4. It's also a beast, so it's a beastie, boys. He will be coming home. He'll coming home. As long as Guardian Beast is untapped, non-creature artifacts you control can't be enchanted. They have indestructible, and other players can't gain control of them. This effect doesn't remove auras already attached to them. So you play Shatterstorm with Guardian Beast, your stuff is guarded. Your artifacts get indestructible. They can't get enchanted and they can't be stolen. Such a good card, especially in Commander. I love it. Where's it getting played? The Greasefang, Okiba Boss, and the Urza Chief Artificer. Of course, the Chief would want to play this, Urza. Wait till they put Guardian Beast in Modern Horizons 30. 2.0. Might be waiting a long time. Slate of Mind. Shout out to my friend, the Dual Brain, Mr. Ed. Won't. There's a big brain. There's a big brain. I used to love this card. I'll tell you what I was playing with. I played this card in a Heroes deck with Slate of Mind, Magical Hack, Abbey Gargoyles, because it was a 3/4 with protection from red. And then you could just slate. That used to be tech in early Magic the Gathering. I'm not kidding you. Slate of Mind changing the protection of the color of a creature to another. It doesn't see so much play anymore. It doesn't seem so good, but running hoser cards and then Slate of Mining or hacking them to other colors or other land type abilities used to be a thing. Narset Exile the Vile is running it. Dromar the Banisher and Aragorn the Uniter, all commander decks that seem to be actually playing this card. Very neat. So this is a 1 mana. It was an interrupt back when interrupt was a thing. Now we just have instance. You could change the text of any target spell or permanent by permanently changing the wording of any color word with another. The color remains the same color, and you can't change mana symbols, but it changes the color word. So the counterpart to this one was Magical Hack. This was an interesting card. This changes the land type ability. It's also 1. Change the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one land type with another. For instance, you can change Swamp Walks to Planeswalk. And much like the Slate of Mind, you could change protection from red to protection from blue. So I would run the magical hack with Angry Mob. So during your turn, Angry Mob's power and toughness is 2 plus the number of swamps an opponents control. And if it's not your turn, it becomes 2. So you could run the Angry Mob, and then you could slate them, you could magical hack it to whatever land type your opponent was playing. And then with the Abbey Gargoyles with protection from red, then you could slate a mine that to whatever color your opponent is playing. If they happen to be playing red and black, then you're fine. I guess it just becomes a dead card. And then this card, I love this card. This is such a funny card. Let's look closely at the art on this card. We've got some little gnomey boy with a little beard, and he's shirtless, and he's got a 2-handed axe. This is like what I was doing on the Christmas holidays. He's entered into an axe throwing contest. For 1 mana, target attack defending creature can block and must block all attacking creatures it can legally block. For example, a normal non-flying to target defender can and must block all normal non-flying attackers, but it cannot block any flying attackers. Controller of target defender may distribute damage among the attackers as desired. Play before defense is chosen. So Blaze of Glory, you could basically goad your opponent's creature into blocking and make them block, or you can just like throw your little 1/1 out there when somebody's running at you. Hopefully they don't have trample, because that's just probably going to kill you. But the Blaze of Glory can make your little dork just block everything. Seems like some pretty janky tech, some funny stuff. What's this card worth? $120. 4 keeps. What up, Dubs? Haven't seen you on the 360 out. I gotta find some controllers. Nice. Oh. All right. That's it. You know what time it is, folks. So you can hear the jingle. Thanks for joining me again, folks. It's the Brody Alfonso's Morning Magic the Gathering talk show and stock show, where we discuss Magic cards. You like tracking the prices of Magic cards? Is there enough information out there, or is there just too much information? Let me do it for you. I'm doing it here on the morning show when you can pin me down and you can see me here when we're talking about Magic the Gathering news, articles, changes in the format, prices, card prices, movers, shakers, uppers, downers, interests, and any spicy comments and memes that you folks want to discuss. Come for the magic, stay for the spicy commentary. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Benson, friends, Mill Master, MTG Gaming Bob, Hot Dice. This show is for you. Hot Dice, be nice and twice. Hit that subscribe button. Not twice, thrice. Because it'll go subscribe, unsubscribe, and then subscribe again. That would be awesome. Thumbs up. You got the Hot Dice, Cosmic Seeds, Mill Masters in the house, and all the friends. Titantia Man, appreciate you. Richie Doug, Super Fast Tortoise, Prime 406 Games, and the rest of the crew tuning in a blaze of glory to talk and discuss the Magic the Gathering story. We'll talk to you again real soon. Fun show. Appreciate it. What's life? We can't have a little fun. And crank up that jazz flute. Ron Burgundy would be proud. I got my Dual Brain shirt on here this morning, too. Dual Brains in the house.